Hey, you guys. Hey, so this particular testimony, this is a part two. This is a continuance on me giving my testimony on how God helped me complete the cycle and break the cycle, the generational cycle that I was just in. He wanted me to share my testimony. This is part two, okay? So you will probably want to listen to part one first to hear the full testimony, and then you can continue here on part two. I'm also going to put the link for part one in the description box if you're not able to find part one, so you can start there and continue. All right, y'all. I love y'all so much, and here's the rest of the testimony. Okay, so it didn't work out, and long story short, I told y'all briefly some of this towards the tail end of things. So I had a really good job when we got together, working for the county, and I was working like 10-hour shifts. I was keying payments, doing managed care plans. I really enjoyed that job. And when me and my spouse were together, I was really basically holding us down, right? And so I was pregnant though too. And we had discussed that once I had the baby, we both wanted me to stay home with the baby, but he wanted to find a better job so he could hold us down. And I could stay home with the baby. And so my whole pregnancy, I was working 10-hour shifts, right? And so I'm basically just laying the groundwork. So my people knew I was hardworking. They knew I always kept a job. I was hardworking. They already knew that about me. That was facts that I have lived, and they've seen me live, and I always had my bills paid. They always knew that. So that's why God led me to share all that. So fast forward, I had my daughter. I do go back to work a little bit just to give us some cushion. Before I had my daughter, my husband did find the man I was married to at the time, Jesus is Lord. He did find a job. He did find he had a job before, but like we wanted a better paying job so that I could stay home with her. So he ended up finding a better paying job working for the same company I was working for, but at a different location. And so he ended up getting that shortly before she was born, but I still did go back to work just to give us some cushion. And so I went to work maybe a month or two after she was born, and then I finally, we finally decided for me to do what we had already talked about, which was for me to stay home with her. And so because I was trying to work, and I was breastfeeding, I was pumping around the clock, I was exhausted, I was falling asleep on the road. It was just nonstop, and still working 10-hour shifts. I was exhausted. And long story short, I ended up becoming a stay-at-home wife, and I was probably a stay-at-home wife for a year. And then a week or two before my daughter's second birthday, my husband left. He went to work and he didn't come back. And the time that he would normally come back, the time he would normally come home, I received a text message from him saying that he was basically done with the marriage and he wasn't coming back. And that was that. And I had to try to figure out what I was going to do to take care of me and my daughter. And unfortunately, my name was not on the account that had the money coming in it. I never really made a big deal about me being on the account like that. Like I said, majority of the relationship, I had my own, funds coming in, even though we spent everything together. The only day out of the week that we can go to the bank to add my name to the account was on a Saturday. That was the only day. And Saturday was the only day we didn't have to get up early and we could sleep in. And when I became a stay-at-home wife, I knew like Saturdays were the only days he had that he didn't have to wake up early. So, I just kept putting it off, adding my name to the account. And I said, we'll do it next Saturday. We'll do it the next Saturday or whatever, right? And so I didn't think nothing of it. So long story short, anyways, when he left, I didn't have anything. I didn't have any money to my name. Because all the money was coming through him and his name was the only name on the account. And so all I had was the two cars we had, and both of the cars were messed up. Neither one of the cars were One ended up being the Trailblazer I had. I had paid it off in full. But it now, after all the years, it had problems with the engine and it needed to be fixed. But it was still, everything else was fine. It just needed work on the engine, but it wasn't drivable. And then there's a cash car that we purchased with our tax money at the beginning of that particular year. But we had got gypped with that car, and so the car was messed up. It was overheating. A mechanic sold it to us, and then when we drove it, test drove it, it seemed fine. But then when we got home, it started acting up right before we got home. When we called the mechanic, he disappeared. So we know we had got gypped, and we were just stuck with that car. And it was basically a car that could barely drive down the street without smoking and overheating. So when he left, all I had was those two cars that didn't really work. And I ended up selling them. I ended up doing what I could to hold on to our place and to hold on to our things, right? So long story short, I tried my best to hold on to all that stuff. I ended up losing it. I ended up losing our place. I ended up having to move back in with my mom and her husband, okay? And I did not want to. And after being away from them, I realized I didn't fully realize, you know what I mean, how they affected me, but I know I didn't like myself when I didn't like how I felt around them, right? And I didn't like how they treated me. I didn't have words to explain what I felt though, right? And so then after that, yeah. So I ended up moving in with them. And I cried because I did not want to go. And I had my daughter with me. And when the man I was married to at the time, when he left at the time too, shortly after he left, I found out there were certain health issues that I had, right? So when I gave birth to my daughter, it was a really hard delivery. I was in labor for 3 days with her. And it was a really hard delivery. And then there was an incident after I had her, and I had some health issues, right? That never quite cleared up. And long story short, I found out that there was a health issue that I had that I'm not going to say on here, because the one time I mentioned it on here, I got attacked in that area. So God led me not to share certain details. But I found out that I had a health issue that required surgery, right? And the doctor just told me to try to be healthy and take good care of myself, to hold off on the surgery for as long as I possibly could. And that's what I had been doing. And so anyways, we moved in with my mom, and part of me was relieved too, because of that health issue I had concerns with being alone with my daughter, and I didn't ever want anything to happen to me, and then she have nobody around to be there for her or whatever, right? And so that kind of made me feel a little better, knowing that it was somebody around if something happened to me, right? However, being in that environment, I had to deal with the same things I did as a child. So I had to mentally and emotionally be on guard constantly. And it was just so many wrong situations I would constantly have to endure, and being the scapegoat, and you know how they treat the scapegoat or the black sheep and all that stuff. I was constantly having to endure situations like that over and over again. But I felt stuck. I felt trapped. I didn't see a way out of it, because even though it seemed like I was getting situated. I had a little sales job, but it wasn't making enough money to, for me to go out on my own. And part of me was scared to try to do it on my own with just my daughter, with me having that health issue. And then also my daughter had been diagnosed with autism around that time too. And I was getting her into therapy. I was trying to give her some sort of stability. And we were having a lot of behavioral challenges because after her dad left, we struggled with her behavior a lot after that. Well, I struggled with her behavior a lot after that. And so I was just trying to give her some stability and make the best out of the situation, right? And so we stayed there for a while. Let me see. Okay, you guys, I had to stop recording because I had ran out of space and I had to make some room so I could have some space to finish recording. But during that time when we were living there with my mom at my mom's and my stepdad's house, and we were renting a room from them there, we were paying for the room we were in there. Oh, during that time frame, I forgot to mention, God remind me, I forgot to mention that I lost a lot of weight, okay? I lost a lot of weight. I was fasting a lot. I was praying a lot. I was looking to God for direction, for comfort, you know, because I was going through a lot after my husband left and we lost everything. I was constantly fasting, constantly praying, constantly seeking God for guidance. I still wasn't in complete surrender, unfortunately, but I was seeking him, right? I was desperate. I was desperate. I needed God. I wouldn't have made it through that time or season in my life without him. And anyways, I lost a lot of weight. I lost over 100 pounds, right? And so my mom began to switch up with me when I lost weight. And she took more interest in our relationship when I lost weight. I had people complimenting me more. I had people talking to me that normally don't even talk to me. You know, some people that be funny acting, and now all of a sudden they were more friendly. Y'all remember I said when I was a child, I was like an ugly duckling. My compliment was never, she's so cute. My compliment was, she's so smart. She's so sweet. But when I lost weight, I was having people compliment me left and right, like, girl, you are gorgeous. Oh, you're like, you look beautiful. Oh, you did a great job. You know, I was getting all these appearance compliments, you know, on my appearance, which was something, you know, I wasn't necessarily used to. So it was a little uncomfortable, honestly. And I was getting those compliments left and right. And my mom started switching up with me too, to where she was more interested in having a relationship with me. And she started to expect things of me that she never expected or wanted before. And now suddenly she wanted to have this mother-daughter relationship. But here, all these years have gone by. And when I wanted that from her, she did not want it in return. She didn't seem to want it until I lost weight. And I was looking more attractive and getting more compliments and looking more, you know, on the physical appealing, you know, appealing side, I guess, you know, until she basically didn't seem interested in having a relationship with me or a mother-daughter relationship with me until I lost weight. And when it wasn't that I was trying to like reject a relationship. It was like, I have my own daughter now. And okay, let me say this. This was like a waking point for me. When I was pregnant with my daughter, I thought I was going to have a boy at first. And, well, no, okay. Everybody else thought I was having a boy. And there's reasons for that. And maybe I'll tell y'all that on a different testimony. But I low-key knew it wasn't a boy because it didn't feel like it was a boy in spirit. Like, I don't know. I just knew. I would always know things, and I couldn't explain how I knew it. But everybody else thought I was having a boy, right? And so anyways, God had gave me the name Zion, so I knew it was a girl. And so anyways, when I found out I was having a girl, like I had the ultrasound and I found out I was actually having a girl, I was so scared. I was so scared about having a girl. And it was really sad. My reasoning, I was scared I was having a girl. The reason I was scared I was having a girl was because, yeah, this sounds horrible. This sounds horrible, but it is what it is. I was worried about her not being pretty enough for my mother. And I was just hoping she would be pretty enough. I was wondering if she would look like me. And that sounds so sad. I didn't think anything was wrong with me until my mother would constantly tell me how much more prettier and attractive I would be when I lost weight, or, you know, this, that, or the third. So it was the way she spoke about me that caused me to feel like I wasn't pretty or attractive. And it was the way she treated me in comparison to how she treated other young women, and how she compared me to other young women. And I was worried that what if my daughter came out looking like me, would have, and which would be unattractive to my mom. And I was worried if my daughter wasn't pretty enough that my mother would treat my daughter the way she treated me. And that scared me, because I wanted my mom to accept my daughter, and I didn't want her to treat my daughter the way she had treated me, because I felt rejected by my mother a lot and by her husband a lot. And I would say that didn't bother me. I used to say it didn't bother me because he wasn't my father. But God had to show me that did bother you, because even though he wasn't your father and he was your stepdad, he was the father figure you had in your life, majority of your life. And God had to get me to admit that deep down inside, I really did want him to accept me as his, and he never did. He rejected me. He would claim me as his daughter in front of other people. He would refer to me as his daughter in front of other people. But like, I'm getting ahead of the storyline, y'all. When God sent us back there, when we were recently, like last year when we were there, he told me out his own mouth that, you know, I'm not his daughter. So he really he's not concerned about having a relationship with me like that. But anyways, let me finish back to the story, right? So my mother is, so when I was pregnant with my daughter, I was nervous when I found out I was having a girl, because I was hoping she would be pretty enough that my mother would accept her and not reject her, like she wouldn't treat her the way she treated me. And I remember when I gave birth to my daughter, and when I gave birth to her, I remember looking at her for the first time. You know, when the baby comes out, the doctors do their thing, and then they put the baby on the mother's chest, and they do that skin to skin. And I remember when they put my baby on my chest for the very first time, and I just looked down at her, and she was so small, and the first thing I thought was, I hope she's pretty enough. I hope she's pretty enough. My baby came out looking just like my mama. My baby came out looking like my mama's twin. It was crazy. And I was just thinking, I hope she's pretty enough. And then, you know, the doctors took her back and went to go get her cleaned up and put her under the light, because she needed some light to get her temperature right. And then after they did their thing, they brought her back to me so we could do, you know, the breastfeeding and some more skin to skin. And I got to have that bonding time with her, and I got to look at her some more. And I just thought about how beautiful she was, and how small and fragile she was, and how I was responsible for keeping her alive. It was my job to make sure that she grows big and strong. And I was just thinking about all that and looking at her and how innocent she was. And then I felt shame of myself and anger, because my very first thought when I saw her was, I hope she was pretty enough. And it wasn't because she wasn't pretty enough for me. It was because of my mother. And I was angry that once I found out I was having a girl, I was worried about how she looked, because I didn't want her to go through what I went through. And I was like, that shouldn't have been the kind of thoughts I was having. So I'm saying all that to say, something about me having my daughter changed something for me. So once upon a time, I was seeking my mother's approval really hard, and desiring a relationship with her really hard, and wanting my mother to be a mother to me, and to fight for me and that sort of thing, and to, you know, want to be a part, want to be involved, want to cheer for me, want to show up. But I went from desiring that so badly, and then when I had my daughter, and I realized that I'm thinking, I hope my daughter's pretty enough so my mama will accept her, not reject her. And then I got to bond with my daughter and really see her, and I'm like, she's perfect. And I was just angry with myself for that even being a thought. Something clicked in me and switched in me to where I stopped caring and desiring and longing for that relationship like that. And what I wanted was to have that relationship with my own daughter. And I never want to feel like that again. I don't want to think like that in regards to my daughter. My daughter was good enough. It didn't matter what she looked like. And I was just angry for having that thought. And I knew where the thought came from. And long story short, something changed for me. And so fast forward like time back to what we were talking about. When I lost that weight, and now all of a sudden now my mom wants to be close to me. Now she wants to have a relationship with me, wants to be more involved with me. I didn't know how to respond to that. Right? Wants me to watch movies and stuff with her. I didn't know how to respond to that because she never treated me like that before. She never cared before. I remember when we finally got a new car, she was like complaining, "You didn't take me test driving in your new car." When daughters get new cars, they take their mothers driving with them in their car. And I'm like, yeah, that's true. You know, when daughters get cars, their mothers or parents, they normally help them get the car or help them pick it out, or that type of stuff is normal. But I never had that with her. I've had cars before that one, and she never wanted to ride in it. And so suddenly she wanted things from me that she had never wanted before, but it was only because I lost weight and was getting some type of attention from people because of appearance or whatever. And so it wasn't a natural response for me because I never received that from her before. She was offended. And so it's like now I'm expected to behave a certain way. You like to have this close-knit mother-daughter relationship that's not really real, it's fake. And it's like me being the puppet, behaving how you want me to behave, doing what you want me to do. And it's just really weird because it's not something that it was not something that we ever had, right? And it was not something that she never desired it until I lost weight. And so anyways, it was really weird, and I was just trying to adapt to it. And when I, mentioned, that we don't normally do that kind of stuff, and I was just trying to adapt, she was offended. And long story short, y'all, it was just, Lord have mercy. It was just the same old. And I was just trying to survive, okay? Jesus is Lord. I was trying to survive. And then shortly after that, because I was still playing the scapegoat, but now it was like, I'm still the scapegoat. I'm still the problem. But it's like I'm supposed to play the puppet too and be doing what everybody wants me to do and behaving the way everybody wants me to behave. And it's all about appearance and looks. And it wasn't even about love or a real relationship. It was all about appearance. And so, so you could say that you did this or that, And so, anyways, the next thing was that God, in 2020, God started exposing them more to me. And they weren't really exposed to me then. I just knew that it didn't, it felt weird. Now suddenly, things just felt weird. And so in 2020, he started to shine a light and really start exposing people to me left and right. And God led me out of there. He told me to leave. And he made sure he gave me the money so I could leave. Because I was nervous. I didn't feel like I had enough saved up for us to start over again on our own. And long story short, he supplied money for us to go. And so I went ahead and I was obedient in leaving, even though I was scared. And we had been with them for a while. And, you know, he said it was time for us, you know, to go. And start over. And I was ready to, too. I was just scared. Okay, so long story short, right before we go, right before we leave, right, I ended up getting a new car. I ended up getting a new car only because it wasn't planned. I was going to get some work done on my car at the dealership, and my car note was like upside down, y'all. I had like a really bad deal. I had a really bad deal on the car note I had at that time. And the interest was so high, I wasn't even paying down the note. But anyways, it was horrible. And so my friend that worked up there was trying to help me out, and I was just going to get my car, you know, worked on up there. And he's like, let me see something while you're here. And he started punching some numbers, and he making calls. And next thing you know, he got me approved for a brand new vehicle, brand new, like I'll be the first and only owner. Interest rate amazing, like the best interest rate I had ever had on a vehicle, period. And it was just an excellent deal all around the board, because the car I had was having issues, and it was upside down on the note, and I had been paying on it for a while, and it was just like, because the interest was so high, it was like I wasn't even knocking hardly nothing down off the note. So anyways, long story short, it was a great deal, and a deal that I needed. And so I traded in that car. Well, I gave him another car, and I got a new car, okay? And but it was a good deal that worked in my favor. Jesus is Lord. Jesus is Lord. And so God, in that car, okay, I'm gonna tell y'all this real quick. I feel like I'm telling y'all so much. Okay, so that car, this is something I didn't tell y'all. After, you know, when I lost our original 2 cars, you know, I sold them or whatever, it was like I had went into a wilderness in a sense when we lost everything. After my husband left and everything. After that, I was without a vehicle for a little while, for like a year or so, and having to depend on other people for rides. And after that, when we got our very first vehicle, God started to name my vehicles after the season I was entering into, okay? So the first vehicle we had after going without a car was a cash car. God named that car Grace. And I understood he was naming each vehicle after the season I was entering into. So he named that car Grace, okay? So I'm just explaining that to say, in 2020, this car that we got, that was a blessing from God. And I wasn't sure if he wanted me to get it or not. I said, God, you got to tell me, because he had been naming my vehicles after my seasons. And I say, I was hoping I was entering into a season of promise. That's what I was hoping. I say, Daddy, what's this one? And I said, this one don't look like promise. I was sitting in the car. I'm like, I don't know about this, because I was thinking whenever I got a new vehicle, it would be the promise, right? Because God was talking about me starting over, right? And so I say, Daddy, what's this one? And I said, this one don't feel like promise. It don't feel like promise. This car don't look like its name should be promise. And he said, faith. Okay, I heard God say faith. I said, faith. I say, this car look like a boy car. I can't call this car faith. This car look like it's a boy car, cause it's a dark color. And then he said, big faith. Jesus is Lord. He said, big faith. So he named my car that I received in 2020, Big Faith. And when he said that, I said, I don't know if I like this. I don't know if I like that. So he was basically saying that I was entering into a season of big faith, okay, in 2020, because he names my cars after my season. So the whole trade-in and everything, that was all orchestrated by him. That favor I had was favor Well, nobody but him that got me approved for that. And my note was actually less. It was just favor all around the board. And God had a name for the car, and he called it Big Faith, letting me know I was entering into a season of big faith. And he ain't never lied. He never lied. And right after that, he told me to move from their house, and I did. Okay, so when I got that car and I needed that car, instead of being happy for me, my mom, she pretended like she's excited. She likes new stuff, but she was bothered too. And her husband didn't even pretend to be happy. He was just outright bothered and had an attitude about it. Even though they knew my situation, they knew I was having trouble with the previous car. They knew I was upside down on the car note. They knew I was having a bad deal with it. And they knew that, but they didn't care. They just saw me have something new. And so they were bothered by it. And so right after that, my mom went and got her a new car, and she traded in her car. And she had just got that car. She hadn't even had the car that long. But because I got a new car, she traded in her car, and she went in. She got a new car to make herself feel better, because that's the kind of stuff she'll do as well. And so after that, it was weird. It was weird. It's always been like, I'm not gonna say competitive, but it's like, you know how you want your child to have better than you, or to do more than you, or something like that. I've always seen her kind of wrestle like with a jealous spirit, and God showed me it was a Jezebel spirit that she was wrestling with. And it's like always having to one up a person or something like that, you know? And so anyways, we moved. I told her we were moving, and they were bothered by that as well, even though they act like they weren't. And she immediately started shopping for herself. She knew I was starting over completely. She knew I didn't have any dishes. She knew we had no furniture. All we had was our bed, our bed set, and that was it. And when she found out I was moving, she started buying herself stuff. She started buying things for her kitchen. The kitchen was fully stocked. It didn't need nothing else. So it just started to clutter up the kitchen. But knowing that we were starting over after, you know, everything I've been through, from my husband leaving to me losing everything I owned, knowing all that, and knowing we were starting from scratch and we're going to need everything, instead of asking me what I needed, she went to go buy stuff for herself to make herself feel better. Buying stuff for her kitchen that she didn't even need. And I had a niece that had moved, was moving around the same time. My niece had already moved. I was in the process of packing to leave, but I had informed them I was moving. And so she bought stuff for herself, and she bought something for my niece as a home warming gift for my niece. But she didn't do anything for me. And so my niece declined her gift and said, no, she didn't need it. No, thank you, or whatever. And so when my niece declined her gift, then she offered the gift to me to see if I wanted it, since my niece didn't want it. Jesus is Lord. But, and so those were just the kind of behaviors that I was dealing with a lot. I didn't really feel like I had a mother growing up. I didn't feel like I had a father growing up. It was constantly like landmines I just had to avoid all the time. And constantly getting blamed for things that I didn't even know I was doing or not doing, or I don't know, y'all. I just had to constantly be on guard. And I had to guard my conversations. I had to keep walls up constantly, because I never knew, you know, what I could say to offend somebody, or to be accused of something, or just, it didn't seem safe sometimes, even just to speak, right? Jesus is Lord. I found over time that there were certain topics that were safe topics to talk about with them. So they like to watch the news a lot. So I know I don't like the news, y'all. I don't like a lot of sad stories. Lord, I can't watch all them sad stories. I can, but they like to watch the news a lot, so I know if I talk about the news, that's a safe topic. And they like to gossip a lot too and talk about other people's business. I don't like gossip, but what I would do to make conversation with them is I would bring up stuff like happy news, like something that's public knowledge, like maybe a mutual friend or church member or somebody posted that they had their baby. And so I'm like, hey, you know, so-and-so had their baby. You know, that's a safe topic. It's public news, like they posted it or something. And it's rare that, I mean, that's hard for somebody to twist and make it into something messy, even though it's possible. But I would have to find safe topics to come up with when I was going to be alone in a room with them, because if I was too quiet, they would get offended. But then I had to find safe topics because I could not talk freely around them. It was like they had this interesting type of hearing to where they would take something you say and make it into something it wasn't. It was crazy. Or something you say will be taken against you, held against you. Like, it didn't seem safe to just freely talk openly around them, because you never know what they were going to take and twist, and make it into something it's not, or just use it against you later. Jesus is Lord. Let me see. Okay, you guys, so after all that, I did go ahead and move into our new place. It was beautiful. It's the place I told y'all about. It was so beautiful. It's the nicest place we ever lived. And we got our brand new start, right? After everything we had went through and lost, we just our new beginning. It was beautiful. It was me taking a leap of faith. God did provide, so I had enough. I had like 4 months rent saved up, right? And yeah, I think I had about 4 months rent saved up. Well, that's what God had sent me enough to where I had 4 months to cover 4 months of rent. But because, y'all, I'm a logical thinker, I'm the type that got backup plans to my backup plans, and because I had suffered such a great loss before, I still didn't feel like that was enough saved up, and I wanted more. But God told me to just go with that. But I wanted more because God told me to look for a place. He told me to write down what I wanted and don't look for nothing less. And I did that. And what I wanted was brand new. And so it cost more. This place was the most expensive place I ever had before. And I shouldn't even have been approved for it, but I had favor. And the job I had at the time, I wasn't even working a job because of COVID, right? That's when they had everybody at home from COVID. So my store I was working at, the clothing store I was at this time, was closed the whole time because of COVID, and we were getting unemployment. And so, but even then, with the hours I was getting there, my check still wasn't enough to cover the rent. So that's why I'm like, us getting that place with nobody but God, right? And so I'm like, I didn't want to go into this place where my income is looking like this. And then I had just gotten this delivery job too, or whatever. Mind you, God had already told me he wanted me to leave the clothing job. And I was trying to talk him into letting me stay longer. But anyways, long story short, I'm like, okay, I'm going to be obedient. We got approved for the place. And so I'm just going to go ahead and move in, even though I didn't feel like I had enough saved up, and I didn't feel like the income I had coming in was enough, you know, because it wasn't. And so, but I told myself, I said, when the store opened back up, I'm going to ask my manager for more hours. And I was making up backup plans to cover the rent, right? Y'all, God was not playing with me. I told my mom and them we were leaving. Once I told them we were leaving, that was it. It was a done deal. And, you know, we were packing. Everything was boxed up. The day before we were moving into our new place, literally the day before, I got a call from my manager saying that our store was filing for bankruptcy. They were closing our store, and we were losing our jobs. We were losing our jobs. So the day before I'm moving into this brand new place, I already got the keys. Everything is already boxed up. I already told them we leaving. I'm thinking my backup plan is to get more hours to cover this place. And God is like, there ain't no backup plan. And I get a call the day before we're moving telling me I lost my job. And here I am moving into this brand new place that costs more money than any place I ever lived in. And I'm like, Lord have mercy. And so, but hey, we moving in, right? And I don't have my job no more. And so, Jesus is Lord. I had just barely gotten this delivery job. And there were no deliveries really going like that at the time due to COVID. I think that's what was happening, y'all. I think that's what was happening. But, and so anyways, in moving to this new place, I'm gonna fast forward a little bit more. I was adjusting. God had been exposing people to me. When we moved into this new place, people close, like, it was so many people got exposed to me through the process. Their attitudes was so ugly. It broke my heart. It was obvious my mom and her husband were bothered about us getting a new place, even though they saw that how much we lost. They saw what we went through, right? And it was like they didn't want us to better have a brand new start, a fresh start, a new beginning, you know, or that it was too nice for us. I don't know. You know, it was just, but they were bothered, and it bothered me that they felt like that after seeing everything I had went through, that me and my daughter went through, and they weren't even happy for us. They were bothered that we had a new place, and it was nice. And my friends were happy for me because they know everything we've been through. They seen, you know, me struggle, and they were happy for me. They were so happy for me. But some of my family, like my mom, they weren't happy about it. And so it broke my heart. It was God exposing hearts for what it was, to where I couldn't make any more excuses for them. And I had to call it what it was. And I put distance between us. And my heart did get hardened a little bit, because it really did hurt the way they treated, the way they responded to us being blessed, because I've always cheered for them and wanted the best for them. And it was like, man, why keep, you know, treating me like this? You know what we lost. Like, you don't even want this better for your grandchild. It was just, I don't know. And so, after that, like, I eventually surrendered to God. Y'all, so much happened in between, but I'll have to do other testimonies on the in-between, because that'll be a testimony as far as ministry and stuff. But I'm trying to stick to the topic regarding the people that this testimony is supposed to be in regards to. And so, fast forward time, I have finally surrendered to God. God had me publish my first children's book. Then he had me making these notebooks. I done got this website up for my books. It looks like I'm doing, you know, some big things. I done published a book. I'm promoting it. I'm making notebooks and stuff. I started a business. It looked like I may be doing something, right? So once it looks like I may be, you know, headed somewhere, got this nice, beautiful new place. My place is so nice. And I'm looking, things are looking up, right? God blessed me with a brand new car, brand new place, all the stainless steel, you know, appliances, granite countertops, hardwood floors, the new modern place or whatever. Starting a company, publishing a book, multiple notebooks, ads, all this stuff, right? They see me doing things I haven't done before, and they switch up, right? So they switch up, they start acting different. My mom's seeming more supportive. She's buying my books, buying my notebooks, telling other people about them, seeming happy for me and supportive. When we left their house, it was like, things started happening when we left. I found out that their oven went out, their refrigerator broke down. So the refrigerator broke down after we left. The oven went out after we left. It was like God was exposing things on them, because I was always the scapegoat. And so it was like they could always use me to blame me for stuff. But when I was gone, they didn't have me around to blame me for stuff. So then it was like people started to see that I wasn't the problem because I wasn't even around. And certain relatives started having issues with my mom. And it started to stand out to where it was like, she's the problem. Some people, so it was like God was vindicating me when I left. Okay. So when I left, he had started a vindication process, and it was almost like too, that when we were there, we were a blessing on their home, which is something God has showed me this recent go round. So when we left, it was like I'm hearing their appliances are breaking down. Then people in the family beefing with them, like a little light beef, which was basically exposing that my mother, and them were the problem the whole time, and it was never me. And so that was kind of starting to come to light, and people were starting to see the truth once I was out of the vicinity, right? Jesus is Lord, and maybe this is for somebody, right? And so I was starting to feel bad for her, because I was hearing about how things were breaking down in their house and they were having a hard time, and how, she was, was kind of being called out in a sense by certain family members. And y'all, I got the spiritual gift of mercy so strong. Like, I was starting to feel bad for her. And then I thought, okay, I thought I started to see her changing some, like humbling herself some. And some people mentioned that she seemed like she was growing a little bit and changing some of her ways and coming into a new understanding after being humbled a little bit, right? And so I started going around more. And when I would make new notebooks, I would get excited. And when I would get my first copy in hand, I started to go by her house and show her, hey, look, I published this new notebook. Show her my new notebooks when I would receive them in the mail. And she was seeming better. They were seeming like they were better. They was treating me better than they did before. And I thought things, maybe they did change, right? And I could stop by. I was stopping by more, because I lived like 5 minutes from them, the place I moved. And so I was stopping by more and, sharing things with them and coming to little family gatherings or whatever. And so God had exposed stuff about them to me, but then I also saw God humble them too and expose them to other people. And so I thought they had changed, and I started to let them back in, and I was doing my obedient walk with God, doing the things he was leading me to do. God provided for us in that new place for a little over 2 years. Now, I told y'all I lost my job the day before I moved in there. And this is a whole nother testimony. It's too much to say right here, right now. But God provided for us for me to be able to continue to pay the bills in that place for a little over 2 years, even after me not having my job. Okay, he provided supernaturally, and he taught me how to respond to him in obedience. I learned that my obedience was what will truly bring the reward, right? God was taking care of me through my obedience. He was providing for us miraculously every single month. And so we had our place for a little over 2 years. Even without the job, and I was just living a surrender. Well, I didn't surrender right away, but the point was I was depending on God for my daily bread, and he got us through, right? And a little over 2 years, we were about to lose our place, and it seemed like that's how God wanted it, because I was having dreams about us leaving that place anyways. I was actually having dreams about us back at my mom's house, which made me nervous. And I'm like, oh, wow, I'm having these kind of dreams. And so anyways, me and God had a conversation one day when it seemed like we were about to lose our place and we weren't gonna better come up with the money for it this time. And long story short, I told him if he wanted me to go back, I would. I don't want to, but I would, out of obedience, if that's what he wanted. And I made that clear to him. I would surrender that to him. And I also made the phone call to my mom to ask her if we were able to come back. If we needed to, could we? And she's like, oh yeah, you're always welcome back, right? Like, she was excited about it. And so I said, okay. I said, well, it's not in stone. I'm just trying to see some things. And she said, oh yeah, okay. Well, just let me know. And I said, okay. And that was that. And right after I did that, I told God I was willing to if that's what he wanted me to do, and I surrendered that to him. Right after that, I think that night I went to sleep, God gave me a dream, and he told me to fight it. Because we were on the verge of losing our place, and he told me to fight it. He just wanted to see if I would have truly surrendered it. And so anyways, I did. And so when I was willing to do it right then and there, he gave us more time in that place, and he provided more, and we were able to stay a couple months longer. And then, Jesus is Lord, y'all. I don't know why I told y'all all that. But then right after that, it was like, okay, it's time. And we were losing our place. And we were going to have to move. And so I'm thinking we moving in with my mom, right? And instead, God is like, no, we don't, telling me not to move in with her, right? And so I'm like, well, where are we going to go? Like, am I supposed to be looking for another apartment, or, you know, where did he want me to be looking next? And he starts showing me hotels left and right, that he wanted me to go to a hotel, basically. So long story short, I'm like, a hotel. Long story short, I understand he wants me to go to a hotel. And when we lose our place, we end up going to a hotel. I burnt through what little money I had at the hotel. I was doing ministry work, but there was no money coming in at all from the ministry work. I was mainly on TikTok. I had a YouTube, but God had pulled me off YouTube for a little bit. The channel was still active, but I wasn't posting on it because he was leading me to only post on TikTok for a little while. And but I hadn't received nothing towards ministry from TikTok or YouTube. And so here I am. I'm in a hotel now. Like, I was in a hotel, and hotels cost more to stay in. And basically, long story short, I was in a hotel, and I had nothing coming in from the ministry work, and God still wanted me to make videos, and I was trying to keep a roof over our head. And so I was doing my delivery job every day. When my daughter's in school, I was out doing deliveries, trying to come up with the money to pay for another day every single day. And God is like still trying to get me to do ministry work. And, you know, I was doing it here and there, y'all. Jesus is Lord, y'all. God was not playing with me, though, about the ministry work. It was times when he wanted me to release a word, he expected me to sit still and do the word. And sometimes I was so torn between going out to go try to make money to pay for another day at a hotel and versus recording a video, because I wasn't putting the videos out for money, no way. I was putting them out for obedience. But God had me in such a tight situation to where it was like I was trying to come up with money for the room every day, and nothing was coming in through the ministry work. So I told myself I was going out to do these deliveries so I could be able to pay for a room to do the ministry work, right? And God was like, seek ye first the kingdom. Jesus is Lord. It was times I would prioritize going out to try to do deliveries, and when nothing come from it. And I had to realize that God was showing me that when I prioritized his work, you know, making these videos first, seeking first the kingdom, putting out the words, that he would bless the works of my hand. So when I was trying to go out and do deliveries and put off doing the videos he's telling me to do you know that I couldn't hardly get no deliveries in my area? Or any delivery I got, it was a whole headache. It made me want to quit that job. I was getting either horrible deliveries that gave me a headache, that made me want to quit, or I couldn't find any deliveries in my area. And if it's not in your area, then it's not worth it, right? Or I would get deliveries and there would be no tips. Well, it ain't worth it if you can't get a tip, if you can't get your tips either. And so I had to learn the hard way that when I put God's work first, making those videos, putting them out, even though, you know, it's just so obedience, right? When I would do that, God would bless my deliveries. When I would do the video first and post it, and then try to look for deliveries after that, I would have so much favor. I would get deliveries right in my area. The pay would be the best pay I ever had. I would get excellent tips. It was like he would bless the works of my hands. He would favor my shift. And he was just teaching me obedience, right? Not to look at what things look like, but to just trust God, right? To just trust God, basically. Jesus is Lord. Lord have mercy, y'all. So God had to teach me that for the longest, you know. He's showed me that scripture on repeat, to seek first the kingdom. Seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you. That is the scripture he showed me over and over on repeat. Okay, y'all, so I'm going to continue. So we were in a hotel around that time. That was, what year was that? That was the year of 2022 in November. We were in there during Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's. And God kept us through that time frame. During that time frame, I actually had a tax refund that came in too, that helped too. And I was selling whatever I had to sell because God said he wanted us there. So I was doing my part to make sure I was where he wanted us to be. But I had nothing coming in through the ministry. It was just like I was putting the videos out. Some of them videos y'all seen, I was in a hotel when I was recording those. And I didn't and nobody knew but like 2 friends of mine. Well, no, I had 3 friends that knew. That was it. And but yeah, and so we were able to stay there until like January, and then all of a sudden it was like the provision stopped, and the favor stopped. I had favor. I had so much favor. Oh my God. But it just stopped all at the same time, and God got quiet. And that's why I say, y'all, sometimes I get nervous when they get quiet, right? And so it stopped all like at the same time. And all of a sudden it was like I had no idea how I was gonna pay for the next day. And I asked God, I asked him, what did he want me to do, right? And because I didn't have enough money to pay for the next day. It was just, I had hit a brick wall, and I had to make a choice, right? I had to leave. We had to leave because I didn't have the money. And I heard him say, go to your mother and recover. Okay, go to your mother and recover. And I'm like, okay, seriously? Seriously? After all this? And so I was driving, doing my driving job, praying some more. I asked him again. I want to make sure I heard him right. He said again, go to your mother and recover. And I'm like, man, are you kidding me? So I'm like, okay. I called her. I asked her, can we, come back through? And she's like, yeah. And I tell her we coming back through today. And then, I get all our stuff from the room. I bring it to her house, get my daughter from school. I tell my daughter we're moving back in with them. My daughter's heartbroken. I'm heartbroken. I'm trying to console my daughter because she doesn't want to be there either. And when we get in the room and we finally, get all our stuff situated, because I'm running back and forth like crazy, trying to get all our stuff from the room. Once I sit still, my heart is just completely broken. And I'm basically telling God he broke my heart. Y'all, this is a ministry testimony. This is not this kind of testimony. This is a different testimony. But the bottom line is, I was asking God, why didn't you just let me go straight to my mom's from our apartment, and I would have saved so much money. But that was the point, okay? Jesus is Lord. That was the point. God had us make that pit stop to the hotel to intentionally dwindle our funds, okay? When God sent me back to my mother's house this second time, right? He said, go to your mother and recover. He told me it was for retesting. He was going to retest them. He was going to test me with them, but he was retesting them with me, seeing if they learned their lesson, okay? To see if they learned their lesson from the last time. For if they, you know, because he humbled them a little bit last time he removed us, right? When he removed us to that new place, he humbled them a little bit. So he was seeing if they had learned their lesson. And so when he sent me back there, it was for testing. And, you know, even though I felt like he broke my heart or whatever, because of how everything happened, by the time we got done with the hotel, I had spent so much money there to where I ain't had no money left. When I literally came there, I had nothing. All I had was bills due and no money when we went to our house. We went to their house, and so we're getting situated there or whatever, and we had a whole audience. Oh man, we had a whole audience. It was so embarrassing and painful because there was other family members there when we were bringing our stuff there, and they didn't know we had lost our place. It was so hard. It was so painful, y'all. And so like right after we get there, you know, me and Mama have a conversation because she brings up money, and they want me to pay more than I paid before to live there because we had such a nice apartment. So since we had such a nice apartment, they feel like we could pay more. And they were really bothered. It just really showed that they really were bothered about the place we had, even though they tried to play nice after a while. But since we had such a nice apartment, they wanted me to pay them more than I paid before because they figure I can afford it. Even though God was the one who gave me the money every month to pay for that apartment. God supplied the need every month. Jesus is Lord. Not like every month he supplied the need for it. Every month, building my faith. Every month I had to trust him every month. And so I was trying to explain to my mother, we were talking on the phone, I was trying to explain to her that you know, I was explaining to her that, well, we don't have anything right now. I'm like, if you can give me a couple weeks, because I was telling her I owe everybody right now. I told my mom I owe everybody. I owe all my bills right now. And I'm trying to catch up so I don't lose nothing else. And she said, well, everybody can get paid. She said, she told me that she said that sounded like I don't know if she said it sounded like a personal problem, or she said that's not our fault. That's what she said. When I told her, well, if you can give me a couple weeks because I owe everybody right now. She said, well, that's not our fault. And I said, huh? I said, I didn't, you know, I wasn't saying it was your fault. I was just telling her my predicament. And she said, well, it's not our fault and everybody can't get paid. And I was I had to tell her, well, you know, these bills I'm talking about are mandatory bills that I have to be paid, you know, because I'm not losing anything else. And so long story short, God was showing me that he was testing them in their heart towards me as well. And the time we were there, God did just that. He allowed me to be humbled time and time again. Every single month, I thought I was going to either lose my car or my storage. Every single month. I was caught between a rock and a hard place. And I was scared to ask them to give us some grace because the way they were when it came to money. But there were some months where I had no choice, and I had to face them and be like, can I pay you later? Or let them know I didn't have their money, or ask them to pay them later. And I would be so stressed out about it. I would be having so much anxiety. Like, I feared talking to them more than I did a bill collector because of how they would act if I didn't have their money, or if I couldn't come up with it in a time frame, you know, they wanted me to. Mind you, they knew we were coming out of a hard situation, but they just didn't care, right? And that was a test for them, okay? The time frame we were there, God showed me that we were a blessing to their home. So when we moved back in their home, things started to get better for them. But things started to get worse for me. My health started to deteriorate. It started to get worse and worse. I started gaining weight. The weight I lost, I started gaining it back. I was stressed out. I was battling depression. They rubbed it in my face about me basically losing that nice place. They act like they were cool, you know, tried to act like they were cool and happy for me as I was doing better, you know, my books and stuff. But when I lost the place and everything, soon as we moved in with them, it was thrown in my face that you went and got that nice place. It was literally, I was mocked for obeying God, for trying to start over, listening to God, obeying God, having a nice place and losing it. And we're supposed to mourn when our brothers or sisters mourn. When people we love lose things in their mourn, we're supposed to mourn with them, not mock them or celebrate their losses. And they seemed happy that we lost our place. And they mocked me for it. And so it was like, yeah, you went off and got that nice new place. I had to hear that multiple times when we first moved back in. So I was battling depression because it was like, remember I said when we were doing better, they switched up and they were seeming nicer, more supportive. And then God allowed me to be humbled and they went back to the same old behavior as before. But now it was like they were punishing me for leaving to begin with, for having something nice to begin with, right? They wanted me to pay more than before because we had something nice. And then like throwing it in my face, and then it's like, yeah, you went and got that nice new place and lost it or whatever. And I was telling her, I said, well, I was obeying God. I told my mom I went to go obey God. He told me to go get that place. And she said, well, sometimes, you know, you think you're hearing from God and it's not him. And so she was causing confusion and stuff like that. And I had to rebuke her. So here's the thing. This go round, when God moved us back in there, my eyes were open. Now, the other times we lived there, I did not know. I didn't know about the spiritual battle behind the scene. I didn't know that it wasn't my fault, right? I've always been a scapegoat. I did not know the truth about the situation. I didn't know I was a generational curse breaker. I didn't know none of that before. So now, me entering back into this place, I'm battling depression because I'm like, I'm feeling like God threw me back in the belly of the beast. And I know he said this is for testing, but I felt betrayed. I felt betrayed, but something amazing happened though. Once I got past that feeling, I just experienced God's love in a new way. And he was there with me, you know, the entire time, covering me and comforting me and getting me through it. But I did struggle. I battled depression. And God still wanted me to make these videos while I was there, y'all. And I was just struggling. And so anyways, long story short, I keep saying that. Long story short, it was tests over and over and over again. God allowing me to be humbled. God allowing them to see me struggle, to see if they would help, if they would be supportive, if they would do the right thing. It was times I was struggling to come up with enough money to pay everybody, including them. And I would plead with God, God, please give me more money so I could pay them. And when I was struggled, they were like, well, you came up with the money for that nice new place. And I said, well, God provided for that. He blessed me to better do that. And she's like, well, God should, you know, bless you to better do this too, or whatever, right? And when I would pray and ask God to help me to come up with enough money to pay them, like he did at the other place, You know what scripture he told me? He quoted to me when I was asking for him to help me, to have enough money to pay them. He quoted the scripture this way. He said, a good parent. Y'all know that scripture, a good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children, right? The scripture that says a good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children, right? That's the scripture God quoted to me when I was asking him to help me come up with enough money to pay them. Except I heard him say a good parent. I heard him say a good parent leaves an inheritance for his children's children. And I basically knew and understood. He gave me the knowing and understanding that he wasn't going to give me enough money to pay them, because he wanted me to not be able to pay them to see their response. God put me in that position multiple times. And I was shaking in my boots. I had so much anxiety because I knew they were going to be angry with me if I didn't have their money. And it was a test for them. And back to, again, what I was saying. When we got there, our time spent there, God showed me that we were a blessing on their house. The things that they had lost when we left before, how their refrigerator had broke down, so they had to use this old fridge they had in the garage that didn't have a lot of space. Their oven had been messed up, had been broken, and they had been going without an oven since we had been gone. And just different stuff, pipes bursting and stuff in their house. They had been experiencing different things like that in their house. When we got there, things started to get better in their home. There seemed like things were turning around. They were able to get a new fridge. They were able to finally get a new stove and oven. My health was getting worse. My finances seemed to be getting worse, but their stuff seemed to be improving when we came back. I was gaining weight. I was struggling with my strength and my energy every day. Their health was getting better while my health was getting worse. When I say I was struggling with my strength and energy, it was as if, you guys, and since I had been spending time with God for like 2 years, right, before I came back, I had spiritual gifts too. I had been walking in my purpose. I had been sharing the prophetic dreams. God had been elevating my gift before I had even gotten there. So I was hearing more things in the spirit, and right. So when I come back in their home too, I have revelation and understanding of who I am. That I am the generational curse breaker. I have the understanding that I wasn't in the wrong for all the things they blamed me for my whole life, and that how they had been treating me was wrong. I finally understood that. And so now I'm in a situation understanding that I'm being wronged and trying to cope with that, right? I know the truth when I didn't know it before, right? And so now, here we go. I'm back here in this situation. And not only that, God had elevated my gifts in a way I didn't understand, but I was seeing spirits in the house. I didn't realize it at first. And there was a certain spirit in that. Oh no, my battery's low. Okay. There was the spirit of the house that would stand in the same spot in the house all the time. And it would watch me when I would be out and moving around. And I later found out that it was the spirit of Jezebel. And oftentimes it would stand in the spot that I would see my mom in often. And God showed me that that was the spirit that was attached to her. It was the spirit of Jezebel. And the spirit of Jezebel ran that house. And so I would struggle with my strength and my energy a lot while I was there. And it would take everything in me to get ready and to get out the house. It was like the house did not want me to leave the house, okay? And that may sound crazy, but it was spiritual. And every single day, it was like I was fighting with everything in me to have some kind of energy or strength, to get dressed, to care for myself. It was a battle every single day. And anytime I was trying to get ready to leave the house, I literally felt like I had to fight to do it, to put on clothes, to get ready, to get my daughter ready. And it was exhausting. And y'all know what? There was a movie when God was calling me out of there. that God led me to watch to minister to me, and it's called Dark Tower. It's called Dark Tower. And there's a part in the movie where the kid is trying to leave this house to go through this portal to go to a new place, right? And when he's trying to go through the portal to leave this house, the house comes alive. They call it a house demon. In the movie, it's called a house demon. And it comes alive as soon as he tries to leave, and it attacks the kid to make the kid stay. And the kid has to basically rebuke it for it to let him go, and so he can get away. Jesus is Lord. And God showed me that, and it blew my mind, because that's what I had been dealing with, and I've seen it in dreams too, to where I was literally fighting the spirits in that house that were constantly attacking me, constantly attacking my strength and my energy. And God had given me the grace to be there for a certain time frame, right? Jesus is Lord. Yeah, okay. Another thing I experienced shortly after we got there, and this is what I'm saying, how it's like we wrestle not against flesh and blood. The enemy literally used them to break me down as much as they could, because I was regaining strength with God, right? And I remember shortly after we got there, my mom picked a fight with me, had me stand in front of her and her husband, where they basically picked me apart, and it broke me down completely. I was fine at first because I was getting my strength from God, but they intentionally broke me down emotionally and mentally, like they did when I was a child, to where I started to battle this deep depression. And once they broke me down to cause me to feel depressed, then they called people and they told them to pray for me that I was depressed, and they were trying to help me. But they were the ones who caused it, and they knew they did, right? They knew they did. So they triggered it. They attacked me and triggered it. And then they tried to play the hero and called people and told them, she's depressed, pray for her, I'm trying to help her. They left out the part where they caused it and they triggered it, and that I was fine until they decided to attack me and, you know, do what narcissists do, basically, because they feed off of people, right? Jesus is Lord. Jesus is Lord. And I saw that in a dream. There was this demonic spirit that was literally sucking the life out of me. God was showing me this stuff in my dreams while I was living there, that's what was going on. And so Jesus is Lord. So yeah, I just want to mention that they literally targeted me to attack me mentally and emotionally, to cause me to fall into a depression, and then went around telling everybody about it, calling people, telling them about it, telling them to pray for me, and that, oh, I'm trying to help her. I asked her if she need anything, and then trying to play the hero like they're trying to help a sister out after causing it. Jesus is Lord. Y'all, I battled with so much anxiety there, and then constantly dealing with being gossiped about, continually being their scapegoat. When we were gone to, they did not, I'm not even gonna go there. I'm not gonna go there. But they continually used me as their scapegoat. Anytime something was wrong in the house, or they had company and things weren't a certain way, they would blame me for it. Same old. And just me battling constant anxiety while I was there, and them gossiping the whole time, spinning the narrative, constantly, continually trying to make me look like I was something I was not. Okay? And then finally, Lord have mercy, finally, when I didn't think I would better take anymore, God gave me the green light to go, to leave. He finally gave me permission to leave. And I shared my testimony on that already, that I was looking for a place, wasn't finding it left and right, didn't have enough income, didn't qualify, all that stuff. And long story short, I finally got the memo that God wanted me to go to a hotel again, and that's what I did, and that's where we have been since. Jesus is Lord, until we find another place. And I'm gonna need more income for that, but God can do anything, and we did what he led us to do and got up out of there, okay? Because God is showing me that he's been calling some people out of the place that they're in, out of that for some of y'all, he may have sent y'all back there for testing and for exposure. And so now that we've already went through that testing again, now the testing process is concluded, because this was God giving them another chance. This was God giving them grace, and they failed the same test again. And so God told me this time, that's it, that's a wrap. And basically he was letting me know I'm cutting ties with them for good. He showed me that these people are on assignment to literally destroy me. Okay, you guys, the lighting is different because my battery's on low battery mode. I need to charge it. But so God had to show me throughout this entire process, I was not wrestling against flesh and blood. I started to see different spirits in the house. He started to identify different spirits in them that were attacking me through them. It got to the point where towards the tail end of us being here, I would be talking to them and looking at them, and I didn't even see them. I saw the spirit I was talking to, the demonic spirit that was operating in them. I could literally see it in their face. And the more I continued to do the ministry work, my gifts were growing, and I was seeing more and hearing more in the spirit too. And it got to a point where it's like, you got to get out of here. Once God gave me the green light, his grace for me to be there was leaving as well. And so it was like I didn't have hardly no peace when we left. I had to get out of there. And so anyways, but I already gave y'all my testimony on that. So if you want to hear my testimony on that, check it out. I believe it's called We Crossed Over. It's called We Crossed Over, and I gave my full testimony on how we left. So anyways, God gave us the green light. We left. Then recently, him calling me to conclude the separation process. That's what I was doing at the beginning of this year. We had to leave so abruptly and just get out of there. And my belongings were still there. So at the beginning of this year, God wanted me to get my stuff out of there completely. And so I did that. And then after that, he led me to send my mother a message, like a letter and a message, cutting ties, respectfully as possible. And I did that, which was hard and painful. And I waited to see if she would respond. She sent no response. I left it open for like 3 days to see if she would respond. And she didn't even respond. But I knew she got the message because she had begun sharing it with other people, okay? So what God had revealed to me with my mom and my stepdad, they're both narcissists. They care a lot about appearances. So God has mentioned to me before about a shaking that has to take place. And that he mentioned to me in regards to them, it's like she just lost her only daughter, and that was not enough to shake her out of her stupor. So it was like, when I sent her the letter cutting ties, she didn't even respond to me. Instead, she went around calling people, reading the letter to them, trying to do damage control, trying to spin the narrative, trying to play the victim. She was more concerned about what other people would think than her actually losing a daughter, or she could have said, "How dare you?" or let's work on this. She could have got mad or been sad. She could have had any type of response, but she didn't respond at all. And instead, she was more concerned with spinning the narrative about how people would view it, to make sure that she had the narrative in her favor. So she went around reading my letter to people and didn't respond to me at all. So after the third day, God led me to just go ahead and block her. That was enough time for her to respond. She never responded. Instead, she's going around calling people and reading the letter to them, and making sure that it looked like she would be favored, in the process. And bottom line, you guys, God had just exposed so much. So when we left, like God told us to leave or whatever, they were attacking my character then. And I told them, I said, just like we had moved there, I told them when we moved there, I only came back because God told me to. And when we had to leave, I told him, God said, it's time for us to go, so I have to leave. And they act like they understood, but then they went around calling people, talking about me behind my back, bashing me to different people, going out of their way to make me look bad. And God had showed me, it was like they want everyone to think the worst of me. They were going out of their way to make sure everybody thought the worst of me. And something else he showed me while we were there was that my mother was trying to turn my daughter against me. She was literally going out of her way. It was different things, it was just things she would do or say. And, you know, the time we were there too, she spoke word curses over our relationship, and I had to rebuke that. And it was things she would do and say, and then it makes sense to me. I'm like, why is she doing that? And Holy Spirit said, she's trying to turn your daughter against you. And when I saw it for what it, like, the whole time I was there, God was exposing and revealing. And so he showed me she was trying to intentionally turn my daughter against me. And so one of the reasons I had to cut ties with them completely is these are people, like I said, that the enemy has been using in my life, my entire life, to destroy me, to attack my self-esteem, to attack my self-worth and value, to silence me. He had the best possible people he can use. Who better to use than the people who are supposed to protect me, right? And so that's what God showed me, that they were not willing to change. Had they been willing to change, I would not have to cut ties. But because he was literally actively, continually able to use them to destroy me, and they were completely blind to it and allowing it and continuing it without showing that they would repent or stop, it's like, no, you just got to cut ties. Not only were they actively trying to destroy me, destroy my integrity, or like constantly spinning a narrative to make me look like I was something I was not. My mother's husband was talking about me constantly behind my back, constantly. And I would always know when he would be talking about me and who he would talk about me to, because of how they would respond when they would see me. You can always tell when you've been talked about. And so I was constantly having to experience that too. And so, anyways, you guys, God showed me they wouldn't stop. They would continue to attack me. They would continue to verbally attack me, continue to spin false narratives to make me look bad because of the spirits that were operating in them, and they were willing vessels. And not only that, my mom was trying to turn my daughter against me. And if I allowed her to stay in my life and stay in my daughter's life, she was going to continue to try to turn my daughter against me. They both had isolated me from everybody and then accused me of being isolated. They would continually talk about me, bash me to other people, which would cause me to be isolated from everybody else because they were continually painting a bad picture of me, the worst possible picture of me, right? So they were causing the isolation, then accusing me of being isolated, oftentimes back me up into a corner. Look, y'all know the drill when y'all dealing with a narcissist. And if you ever had to play the scapegoat or the black sheep, y'all, I'm so tired. And I've been talking for so long. But I pray I've said enough for whoever this is for. And I pray this blesses you. I don't know if I overshared or not. But God just showed me at the end of it all, I had to let go. I had to cut them ties, because if I had not, they would destroy the future that God had for me. That was their assignment. And God said it ends now. And so now I'm going through my healing process. And like I said, some people, God will have you cut off temporarily. Some are for good, and it's for different reasons. But for these two, I had to cut them off for good because they were on assignment. The enemy had been using them, and they would have continued until they completed that assignment. Okay? So God was saying nobody's exempt. It doesn't matter their title in your life. Nobody's exempt. He's given people chance time and time again. And if they're not willing to repent and choose basically God, to do things God's way, and turn away from those, those wicked ways, then they're going to have to go, because God is not going to let anybody hold y'all up and stop y'all from becoming who he's creating y'all to be. Okay? So he's moving all the distractions, all the people out of the way that the enemy has been using in your life to hold you up for years, and nobody is exempt. He don't care about their title. He said he did not come to bring peace, but he came to bring a sword. Okay? He came to bring a sword. Jesus is Lord. Hold on, y'all. Let me see. Okay, you guys, and I got my big Bible out so I can read it with y'all right now. But it's Matthew 10, verse 34. Do not think that I came to bring peace on earth. All right, this is Matthew 10, verse 34. Do not think that I came to bring peace on earth. I did not come to bring peace, but a sword. For I have come to set a man against his father, a daughter against her mother, and a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. And a man's enemies will be those of his own household. Jesus is Lord. He who loves his father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. And he who loves his son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. And he who does not take his cross and follow after me is not worthy of me. He who finds his life will lose it, and he who loses his life for my sake will find it. God is good. He who receives you receives me, and he who receives me receives him who sent me. Jesus is Lord. Okay, let me see. He who receives a prophet in the name of a prophet shall receive a prophet's reward, and he who receives a righteous man in the name of a righteous man shall receive a righteous man's reward. I'm thinking about how God said this was a test for some people, okay? When God humbled me and sent me back there, that was a test for them, and it was an opportunity for them to be blessed as well. Jesus is Lord. But anyways, you guys, that was the scripture he just led me to read. So for some of y'all, when God is calling y'all out of these environments, out of these relationships, be at peace, because you're obeying him. You're obeying him. And when other people are telling you or trying to convict you or make you feel like you're doing something wrong, you're not. You're obeying God. You're about to walk into purpose. You're being who God called and created you to be. You're not the one at fault here. You tried to do everything right. You tried to do things the right way. But you can't control other people, and God is setting you free. Okay? Jesus is Lord. So God set me free from those relationships. I still have to heal from them. I have to mourn the idea. I have to mourn the mother I never had. Okay? And the father figure, for that matter. My mother's husband was like the main father figure I had in my life, majority of my life. I had my actual dad, but as far as having a man in the home, I saw my dad every summer. When I got old enough, eventually I went to go visit him every summer. So that's like a month or two out of the year. But I just being straight up honest, y'all, I did not know what it was like to have a mother or a father like that, and the actual aspects of having a mother or father. I grew up feeling like a parentless child, very independent, constantly having to try to figure out things for myself a lot. I really think that's why God came and introduced himself to me at a young age, because look, I had demons attacking me in my dreams, and then I was in an environment where I was constantly over criticized. It was just like the best case scenario to destroy me, basically. Jesus is Lord, not to be dramatic or drastic, but if God had not come in my life at an early age, I don't even know. I don't know where I would be. But anyways, y'all, I love y'all so much. This is super long. I don't know how long this already is. But that was basically my testimony on the relationship that God recently had me walk away from and cut ties with. And this was basically why, okay? I hope I said everything, y'all. I'm super tired, but I love y'all so much. I love y'all so much. Y'all be blessed. Y'all be encouraged, and just continue to obey God in all things and do the things that he's calling y'all to do in this season. And know that it's going to be for your good. And yes, it may be painful, but you will heal. You're going to heal. You're going to get through it. And you're going to come out victorious on the other side, okay? It's not you doing anything wrong. Everybody has to make a choice at the end of the day. And for those who are not choosing God, God is calling for a great separation. And you can pray for them. You can pray God's will over their life. You can, pray for their deliverance, but you got to obey God and move on up out of the way, okay? Jesus is Lord. God can better deal with these people when you're out of the way, all right? Okay, you guys, I love y'all so much. I love y'all so much. And that was it. Y'all be blessed.